What influence can a single parent have on helping their kid come to faith in Jesus or continue faith in Jesus? This question strikes differently for different situations. You might be a single parent Christian due to your own choices. You might be a single parent Christian due to a divorce. You might be a single parent Christian due to some tragedy. You may be a single parent Christian by way of adoption or foster parenting. You might even functionally be a single parent Christian due to yourself coming to Christ before your spouse did. Or you might be a single parent Christian if you follow Jesus, but your spouse sort of does but doesn't do it very seriously, and you feel like you're alone in that endeavor. However you find yourself as a single parent Christian, that task can feel daunting. Is trying to raise your kid to know Jesus and follow after him even possible as a single parent? Sean McDowell, a popular Christian writer and author, interviewed sociologist Christian Smith about his research about how parents pass on faith to the next generation. Let's see what Smith's research reveals about single parents.
Now, you cite and interact with the work of Vern Bankston at USC in his book, also published with Oxford on Faith and Families. Studied, I think, 3,500 people, 4 generations over about 35 years. And the sociological factor they found most significant is a warm relationship with the father. And part of my question is there something, or maybe this goes beyond what the sociological data can reveal, is there something about the father, whatever that is different, or is it just that the parents are on the same page that makes the difference?
Sociologically, I think we can just say for sure that it's being on the same page that makes a difference. I would add, we'll get to this later, but if children have troubled relationships with either parent, that becomes sort of a wrench in the machine here. But if children have an especially warm relationship with the father, or let me back up and say this, it's more likely that children have a warm relationship with their mother. Now it's not taken for granted, but it's more likely.
Makes sense.
And then if they also have a warm relationship with their father, then they're going to be in a pretty good situation with regard to being able to relate to their parents. So this is stereotypical, but there's truth to it. There are a certain amount of fathers who are just busy at work or who are sort of cold and distant. And if it's not like that, that really creates a sort of an environment that's really optimal for getting children to buy into what the parents care about.
Well, since you hinted at it, let's jump into it right now. Is there a negative effect on faith transmission from divorce in your research? Because I remember in Vern Bankston's, again, his research said divorce is strongly correlated, and I forget the exact numbers, with a lack of faith transmission in terms of a kid believing the same thing in terms of faith tradition as the parents. So there's a negative correlation that's there with divorce or strong discord in the home. Did you find the same data?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is absolutely the case, and it's pretty strong. No, it's tricky because this is something parents just can't choose or decide. A lot of this can be out of parents' control, and it's not even just divorce. A parent could have become a drug addict, or they could be in prison, or they could be mentally ill, or they could have died. So a lot of households don't have moms and dads in. So just to acknowledge that. And even so, religious parents that we interviewed still do their very best to deal with it. But the truth is that the most likely family structure to turn out children who continue on as adults to be the religion that they were raised in have mom and dad, two biological, especially parents in the home. And so if you think about a single parent situation, it's not just that that's less likely to turn out children who are more religious. The single parent themselves is less likely to be religious for various reasons. Sometimes they feel guilty for having been divorced. Sometimes, rightly or wrongly, they feel unwelcome in a church. They feel like they're being judged. I've heard stories of single moms who pick up the vibe from married women in churches that they're somehow a threat because maybe they'll be interested in their husband. So there's also single parents, I think, are just by Sunday morning, they're more tired, they're worn out, they need to do laundry. So there's a lot of reasons that are understandable why if you have two parents who are together in this, like as a team, you're much more they're much more capable not only to be involved in a church, say, but to work with their kids in that way. So yeah, divorce, single parents, never married, widowed, etc. All those are less effective sort of family structures to work with.
Thank you for that just kind of qualification that raising this data is not to like shame or embarrass or make somebody feel bad. That's the furthest thing. I have a number of friends whose spouses left them and they did not want the marriage to end, and it was out of their control, and it's painful. And yet the data
and in general, along those lines, I would say, I think that the story of our research should be empowering to parents. It's easy for parents. Again, so stepping back, parenting is really hard. Like if you're a parent, you know that.
Amen.
And sometimes it's harder than others. So there's no sense of judgment or you should be doing this in any of this. Really, I would like parents to feel like, hey, we still matter. We still have some influence. We still make a difference. And so I hope parents hearing this feel empowered and not judged, and including single parents to feel like, well, I don't have all the sociological factors lined up behind me, but there's still a difference I can make.
That's right. I think knowing what is true, then we can respond accordingly given the circumstances we happen to find ourselves in. And you present a lot of that data that's really helpful. So,
I may be jumping ahead, but it relates to this, and that is two parents is really valuable. But it's also grandparents can also make a difference. Aunts and uncles can also make a difference. Building relationships with cousins can also make a difference. So more extended kin can't necessarily substitute for a mom and dad, but can still be significant family factors in all this.
Yeah, that was great. I saw that in Vern Bankston's studies as well, and I shared it with my parents. I was like, hey, you guys are really significant in the faith transmission of your grandkids. And it was neat to see your data support that as well. For different reasons we won't get into. People are living longer. It's easier to move and live closer together. But those biological connections are very, very significant.
While the ideal situation sociologically is for both parents to follow Jesus, that doesn't mean that a single parent can't still have influence on the faith of their child. From a broader perspective of Smith's research, having any parent in the life of a kid who follows Jesus is better than having no parents who follow Jesus. And that's because the home is still the space where a child spends most of their time. Considering the less than ideal circumstances, the witness and guidance of a single parent Christian is still better for a kid to come to know Jesus and to follow after him. Past decisions are just that. They are past decisions. What does living into reality in the now look like? With the situation that you have today, how has God enabled you to help your kid encounter Jesus and to follow after him? Your life and witness, even as a single parent, is still one of the best ways that your kid has a chance of coming to know Jesus and follow after him. And beyond yourself, there may even be family members within your family who follow Jesus who you can bring into your kid's life to also surround them with witnesses of what it looks like to follow Jesus. The important thing here is that you're actively trying to follow Jesus in the presence of your kid and helping them come to know who Jesus is and to follow after him. In follow-up videos, we're going to look at why transmission of faith in Jesus falls so heavily on parents. We'll also look at 4 different ways in how parents relate to their kid in the endeavor of helping point them to a life in Jesus.